everybody.
Hi, guys. Well, from ever more chilly Salt Lake City,
It's Thank God I'm Atheist.
the podcast.
I'm Frank Feldman.
And I'm Dan Beecher.
And coming up today, we have kind of a kooky thing to talk about. We're gonna talk about a specific event that's happening really as we speak out in the Nevada desert. Not Burning Man.
We already missed that. But it's not unlike Burning Man in some ways.
In that people go to it to find emotional catharsis and connection, some sense of community, maybe.
Yeah.
But it's kind of a hokey event in some ways, and but in other ways, it's also highly Instagrammable and beautiful, and that's part of its appeal. And
I feel
and
like...
I actually strangely am sort of drawn to the thing. So we're gonna talk about that.
Yeah.
And then of course, Dan.
Yes.
Coming up first, we've got a whole bunch of other stuff to talk about.
Yeah.
I am going to start with a story that I think probably a lot of people may have seen.
Okay.
It was being shared a lot. I saw it a lot on Reddit and online elsewhere.
Okay.
And it's kind of one of those stories where my initial reaction was, oh my God, I have to read this because it's so awful. And I know it's going to make me feel really, better about how smart I am, right? Because that's what these stories are good for, right?
Yeah, sure.
So
okay.
it's the story of a mother in Florida who intentionally crashed her car into a tree, ostensibly trying to kill her kids.
Yikes.
And the quote in the headline is, "The devil can't hurt you."
Oh,
right?
God.
Now, as you start to parse the story out, so I said what my initial reaction to these kind of stories is. My second reaction is always like, well, this is really just a story about somebody who's mentally ill.
Yes.
Right. And so how dare I feel any sort of moral superiority?
Right.
Because she's actually sick.
Yeah.
She's got some serious problems. But nonetheless, I kind of wanted, and then usually I avoid these stories to bring up on the show because I'm like, that's not what we're trying to do.
Right.
Even though I saw this coming from a lot of atheist sources this week, kind of doing the first thing.
There's a weird Schadenfreude.
Yeah.
And I think Schadenfreude is fine and can be fun, but not when like a kid's life is at stake.
Yeah. And so I kind of wanted to talk through the story.
Okay.
And then have our basic reaction to kind of this idea.
Yeah.
Right? And so let's see. When the police responded, apparently she was rambling on about how her husband had put a hex on her.
Oh dear.
And she was being followed by a lot of people in cars. Well, yeah, she was on the fucking road.
Right. Yeah.
And she was trying to read all of their tag numbers. Right. And she mentioned voodoo.
Oh
right?
my God.
And there's just a lot going on. Well, the police questioned the kids, who fortunately all turned out to be fine.
Okay.
She told them all to take their seatbelt off.
Oh God.
Which they did. And then she careened across the median and into a large tree.
I remember this scene from Fight Club. Okay, go on with what you're saying.
Apparently, as they were hitting the tree, she said, "Lord Jesus, save me." And then, as the dust is settling, she says to the kids, "The devil can't hurt you. He only hurts bad people. You have the light of Jesus in you, and only Jesus can cure us." Right?
Jesus, Lord. Can I just say, by the way, you have to pick. You don't get to have Jesus and voodoo. You got to choose. You got to be a Christian. You can be a voodoo. You can be, believe whatever you want.
I don't think there's a lot of rules that you can put on these people. Right?
Well, obviously, and you go to Haiti and whatever, and it's all kinds of mixed up, or any sort of, middle American country or whatever.
Yeah.
It all gets all wonky-do. But don't mix the religions. Yeah. Be one, be another, be whichever one you want. Fine. It's when you start mixing and matching you get real problems.
Well, I think the mixing and matching does appeal to people who have some instability, right? Because they're also not. I mean, they're not thinking clearly, which I don't usually project onto most believers either. Thinking too clearly, about these kind of
clarity
things,
of thought when it comes to the devil or whatever.
It's hard to be like, oh, she believed in voodoo, and Christianity. She must be nuts.
Yeah,
because I think starting off with either of them, there's a good chance that if you're a little nutty, you're gonna find something to glom onto, and really, because we've talked about this before as well. That religion for mentally ill people gives them a lot to cling on to. Yeah, right. To start formulating really, really bad ideas. I forget. I don't even want to bring it up because I can't really cite it. But
I don't know what's in the water in Florida other than alligators, but I hope they keep it there because that place is just a flowing font of cuckoo bananas.
Well, you know what it is.
What?
You know why we get all these stories from Florida, right? It's not that Florida's crazier than any other place in the country. It's they have a state law that makes all of these documents open
to the
public. So when these things happen, the media can get all the details in ways that the rest of the country, the media can't. And so Florida just ends up being like this open mine for...
I prefer to think of Florida as just our country's repository of dipshittery.
Well, I think
craziness.
Florida does have a special appeal.
There's something wackadoo
that draws people to it. But yeah, I heard that a few years ago, and I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Of course it does. Yeah,
because there's crazy everywhere. Right?
There is crazy everywhere. We're gonna do a podcast cross stitch of that. Put it up here in the studio.
But anyway, yeah, I just think that the reason that I wanted to bring this up today is it's kind of that I don't know that we need to lecture anyone and I think our listeners are probably, they respond to our show. So I like to think of them as a more elevated.
Oh, I see.
And thoughtful audience.
Yes, our listeners are definitely the smartest of the listeners.
I think so. And so I probably don't need to tell any of our listeners just to be careful with these stories. I don't think that they're worth really sharing with glee, which is what I saw a ton of.
Yeah, it is. That's not a gleeful thing. That's like a sick person or a person who has been who lacks mental capacity to work past stupid indoctrination, endangering the lives of children.
Yeah,
there's no funny part about that.
Yeah, I know.
Good thing we're not a comedy show.
Makes for good clicks, though.
Yeah, it does.
So I am gonna share it on Twitter if anybody wants to read the article.
Yeah.
Anyway, you're supposed to chastise me.
The kooky bananas. Okay, I'm going to take us just north of that to Tennessee.
Yeah.
Where a woman named Shandell Marie Riley was pulled over by a Hamilton County deputy and totally frisked, top to bottom, every inch frisked, and did have a marijuana cigarette on her person, which she then turned over.
Oh boy!
She was then given a choice. Basically, she could go to jail, or she could be saved by Jeebus.
What?
Yeah, apparently the officer in question, Deputy Daniel Wilkie, approached her and asked if she was saved and believed in Jesus Christ. She said that I believe in Jesus, but she wasn't saved. The officer then said that God was talking to him as he searched her car, and that
get this guy off the force.
That he felt that Lord Jeebus wanted her baptized,
and he'd be happy to do it.
So he basically made it clear that you won't be arrested if you go into your son's house. She was right outside of her son's house when he pulled her over, get some towels. We'll go to the lake nearby, and I'll baptize you.
No fucking way.
And she did, because she didn't feel like she had a choice. And now she's suing. Because that's some crazy, crazy shit.
Holy.
Another deputy was brought onto the scene to be a witness to the ritual. The first officer stripped almost naked down to his boxers, invited her to strip down too. She was like, no, thank you. And then he dunked her in the lake. And, she was understandably horrified. And she said she felt, quote, horribly violated.
Yeah.
And did not feel free to simply ignore.
Yeah,
commands.
No. Yeah.
But
boy, that makes for a good dinner conversation. That's a story that
on both sides.
Yeah.
He's bragging about how he saved another soul for Jesus, compelled her to, and she is talking to lawyers because she is now suing the Hamilton County government for $1 million in compensatory damages and $10 million in punitive damages. Don't think she'll get that much, but yes, she should sue because that's fucking unreal.
That's horrible.
Oh,
I am. What a piece of shit. That is no.
That is not acceptable on any front.
There's so much wrong with it. Well, first of all, the whole frisking and patting down nonsense.
Yeah.
And then like walking around the car and this and that, and then being like, hey, the Lord just spoke to me and he wants us to get into a body of water together. And I'm gonna
take off my clothes if you don't mind.
That's like,
well,
thank God there was another, deputy or whatever around. Was it the sheriff's office, did you say? Or was it the police force?
Let's see.
Oh my God.
I don't know.
Anyway.
Deputy.
So the sheriffs.
So sheriffs, yeah.
Wow. Crazy town, Dan.
Yeah.
All right.
Just kooky.
Okay, Dan.
Yeah.
Did you know, this was news to me. I was not aware of this. But apparently, according to this woman, this naturopath in Australia.
Okay.
Did you know that bicarbonate soda cures cancer? And did you know that cancer is really just a fungus?
Oh.
That of course, like you have this fungus in your system, and you take bicarbonate soda, and it gets rid of it.
Oh, that's
right?
so wait, is she mixing up cancer with heartburn? Has she made? I think she just got a couple things mixed up. I think that's what she meant.
No. She is. She describes herself as a qualified naturopath and nutritionist.
Well,
and she's worked at health retreats in Queensland, Victoria, New South Wales. She lectures internationally. She's authored books on health and nutrition. She has appeared in YouTube videos. Turns out, and this is going to shock everyone, I'm sure, that she has never held any membership with any accredited professional health organization, and she has failed to obtain any relevant health-related degrees or diplomas. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is because the Australian government has banned her from ever doing any of this ever again.
Yeah.
She can no longer, which is, it's almost like it's no. There must not have been a death, right? They must have like intervened before people were truly hurt, because if anybody was, somebody had to have suffered though because of the advice that she was giving her patients.
Yeah.
Because there were all these multiple complaints. Let's see. First of all, she clearly didn't know what some of the things that they found. She failed to keep records on consultation with clients.
Oh,
which
good.
Of course, any qualified medical person would know that.
Which, can I just interject and say, a naturopath, no matter how much schooling they've got to, is not a qualified medical professional.
Yeah, exactly.
Even though they go to as much schooling as a doctor,
right.
They are not. Please be clear. You can check. I did a whole thing about them on How to Heritage, and they are not medical people. There's a little bit of medicine in there. Just enough to confuse everything.
Yeah. But she didn't bother doing any kind of training. And this is why they were able to shut her down so quickly and effectively.
Right.
She, of course, she claimed to be able to cure cancer, which, of course, no.
With bicarbonate of soda? Great.
Yeah, she, let's see, her dietary advice for babies that she's published on her personal website, which, if followed, would lead to the child's death or severe injury.
Sure.
That was one complaint that they received. She gave a lecture, apparently, promoting this whole thing about cancer is just a fungus. She got a lot of these ideas from doctors who had either been tried for manslaughter, or had their licenses stripped.
It's great source material.
She was told to stop. This commission told her, stop it.
Yeah.
Stop following and repeating these theories and these practices of these people who we have removed. We've taken their license away. You have to stop. And she just responded, no, I'm not going to. I'm going to continue.
Well,
right?
I mean, she should stop, especially since we know the cure for cancer, and it's lemons. Everybody knows that. You eat 12 lemons a day, cancer's gone.
Yeah.
Bada bing, bada boom.
Yeah. I buried the lead, though.
Uh-oh.
I did bury the lead, and I had a note up here because the article buried the lead for me, and so I put the note right at the top of the article. She's Seventh-day Adventist. Right? And
they have a long history of kookadoo.
Yeah, and so this is coming from a crackpot, ridiculous religious tradition.
Yeah.
And so she was primed and ready for it, and then she got out into this whole, baking soda.
I'm surprised we haven't had a good Mormon wackadoo faux doctor doing this sort of stuff, because Mormonism and Seventh-day Adventism they came up at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They're from the same area of this dopey country.
Yeah.
And they both had these wacky ideas about food and all this stuff.
Yeah. Well, I think the reason that you don't see a Mormon one pop up is that because they're working for some essential oils company and have very good legal defense.
Yeah.
They phrase everything correctly.
Mormonism has better lawyers. That's probably literally as good as it gets right there. Not even kidding. Listen, when you put business leaders at the top of your organization, the first thing they do is hire a cadre of amazing legal representation.
Yeah. And the crackpots in the religion go out and form multi-level marketing companies.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And it make subtle but not specific claims about vitamins and essential oils and weird tropical fruits that not even the locals would even touch with a 10-foot pole.
Right. No. Mormons invented acai. Just know that. Anyway.
I don't think that's true.
Here we go. I'm going to take us to Kentucky, where I was not 7 months ago or whatever. I was recently at the Creation Museum, Ken Ham's beautiful Creation Museum. I will say the grounds were actually quite lovely.
Really? Well tended?
Mm-hmm. Some lovely gardens. Zip lines were in effect. You could do a zip line there if you wanted to. It was rainy the day I went, so no zip lining.
Yeah, okay.
But one of the things that they have, it's It's funny because this museum is an astounding mixture of really good, well done presentations. They're wrong, but they're really well done. And then really, really shitty, ugly, stupid presentation. Like, it is a very bizarre mix.
Okay.
Because if you've gone to a lot of museums, as you and I both have, you start to see, like, oh wow, they've really put the effort in here. This is actually a really well done display.
Right.
And they have some of those, and then they have some that are just like, holy shit, you guys aren't embarrassed to have this up here. Anyway, it's a bizarre mix. One of the things that they have, though, is a fairly gorgeous and mostly intact Allosaurus.
Which one is that?
It's a dinosaur.
Right.
It looks a little T-Rex like.
Okay.
Not quite as big. It's an interesting thing. The Allosaur is a good looking dino, and they have one of the best intact Allosaur skulls in the world.
Shut up.
So I saw this. I thought, wow, that's a really cool thing that they've got there. And one wonders how they got it. Well, the New Yorker has just published this amazing feature. I highly recommend you go and look at it.
Okay.
About the acquisition of this Allosaur skeleton and the entirely apparently fraudulent documentary film that was made about it, which basically claims that a group of homeschooled Christian kids are the ones who discovered it and who
with the
helped
binding rods
dig it up. Outside of, it's just on the border of Utah and Colorado, there's the Morrison dinosaur site, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Dinosaur, Colorado is the name of the town, the border town. On the other side in Utah, there's this gorgeous Dinosaur National Monument, which is amazing, and it's got this awesome wall of bones. It has so many dinosaur bones that at some point they just stopped pulling them out and left the wall of bones just sort of there. So you can just see this huge wall of partially excavated bones.
Yeah. Well, I mean, good, because now we can really wonder and ask ourselves, why did God put all the bones here?
Right, exactly.
Why did
he
his effort to fool us all?
Why did he stick them in the rock like that? That's really interesting. Well, these kids apparently went on this excursion. They paid a goodly amount of money, or their parents did, to go on the Dragon's Den dig, which is a creationist experience that's going to make sure that everybody understands that these dinos were all buried by the flood. That's what happened.
Oh.
And that's what you'll read about at the Creation Museum as well.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
4,000 years ago, they were all turned into the thing. Anyway, it's a fascinating article, and I highly recommend that everybody track it down and read it in the New Yorker. It involves a U.S. Congressman, Mark Meadows, who apparently owned the land at some point. It's this bit of land, which is rich in fossil record. It has been owned by one set of young Earth creationists after another, and I think it's now owned by Answers in Genesis, which is the Ken Ham's group that owns the Creation Museum and the Ark Encounter. Anyway, I just thought, oh my God, they are using really good, like these gorgeous fossils,
right,
to make sure that they're teaching the real truth about things. Because they also found petrified trees there, which they say proved that these animals were just, I don't know, clobbered by trees. It was a forest at the time. You didn't. Anyway.
Oh my God. No, I've never understood why, like, this. I mean, this whole like flood theory is what killed off the dinosaurs thing. Like, why do you even have to bother with that? Why can't you just be like, yeah, God, like, he creates tests for people, and so he put all the when he was creating the whole Earth, he just put all these bones in the rocks.
Well, some people do that, but
That seems like a much in my mind, if I was gonna fall for something,
that one would
that one at least makes slightly more sense and is a little cleaner than this whole we lived side by side with dinosaurs, these wretched creatures that would eat us all up.
I don't know. When you go to the Creation Museum, they've got a lot of answers to a lot of if you don't bother to study any of the actual science, you'll be satisfied. You'll be fine. They've got answers. They show you how what happens is when the flood came, it brought in all of this mud and that buried and that did the thing. And then you go to the Ark encounter and there's dinos on the Ark.
No,
because they had to save one of every creature, so there's the whole bottom level of the Ark is dinosaurs.
These gigantic.
Well, they didn't have to be adults, Frank.
Oh, that's clever.
See?
That's clever.
They were baby dinos on the Ark. I mean, dinosaurs grow awful quick, and you got to feed a dinosaur an awful hell of a lot. And oh, fuck.
Oh, my God. That's amazing.
And it wasn't just 40 days and 40 nights, mind you. That was just how long it rained.
That's true. No, that is true.
There's another 100 days after that or something like that. It's basically, it's an impossibility, and it obviously didn't happen, but cute. They're cute. I think they're cute about it.
Oh, God. All right. Dan.
Yeah, what?
This is a very interesting story coming to us from the UK about a Dr. David Macarith.
Okay.
Who he is okay, let me first back up and say what he did. He's a disability assessor for the Department of Work and Pensions.
Okay.
And he feels that the DWP, the Department for Work and Pensions,
right,
breached his right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion because they were asking him to just please use people's preferred pronouns.
Oh, those meanie heads.
I know. So when a transgender person would come into,
or even just a non-binary person or whatever.
Perfect. Yes. Would come in seeking his services in his capacity as, I don't know, it sounds kind of like a caseworker type thing.
Sure.
Right. And he would refuse. And so he said this in the hearing. He says that he would refuse to refer to, quote, any 6 foot tall bearded man as madam.
Oh.
Which of course is offensive and
also not what nobody's preferred gender pronoun is madam. I'm just going to put that out there. That's just not one of the things.
Why couldn't it be?
It should be.
It should be.
My pronouns are sir and
sirs
and master.
So the judges in this case, it was a tribunal panel, found that the DWP had not breached any sort of rules or regulations or whatever in asking him to please, and forcing him to please
be respectful of the people that you're talking to,
that you're working with. I mean, and so he's claiming that this is violating his Christian beliefs. And
because do you remember in the Sermon on the Mount when Jesus said, "Blessed are they that stick to their guns when it comes to calling people by gender markers that they like the most"?
Well, and seriously, from anyone's perspective, how could just using their preferred pronoun violate your Christianity somehow? How you're not you're not engaging in any kind of activity. You're not. All you're doing is respecting the person
right.
who's seated across from you, and you're choosing not to deeply offend them after you've been asked repeatedly to use a different set of pronouns than the ones you
right.
have been using, and you just refuse. You're not doing your job.
Listen,
right?
You know what? I'm going to go down the sympathy road just a little bit and say, I get that you believe that your God created people one way or another.
Yeah.
And that your book says that it's real important to be the thing that God told you to be, and that men are different than women, and that men are better than women.
Right.
And so some woman comes along and claims to be a man, or some man comes along and claims to be a woman, and it's against God or what. Just, how about this? Keep believing whatever you believe.
Yeah.
Shut the fuck up and do your job.
Right. Yeah.
Just look, call them by what.
How about?
I don't like that some, I've got a friend who goes by a nickname that I think is really, really stupid. And guess what? I just call her by that nickname. Because that's just her name. That's just what she wants to be called.
Wow.
I don't know. I don't know why that's hard. I don't know what's tricky about it.
Right.
That people get to choose who they are.
Yeah. Dan,
it's not even like you get to choose what gender, but
right,
he doesn't believe that.
Right. So the judgment says, in the judgment, they said a lack of belief in transgenderism and conscientious objection to transgenderism, in our judgment, are incompatible with human dignity and conflict with the fundamental rights of others.
Yeah.
His response is, without intellectual and moral integrity, medicine cannot function.
Oh.
And my 30 years as a doctor are now considered irrelevant compared to the risk that someone else might be offended.
Yeah. Your 30 years as a doctor are a little irrelevant on this point because there's been a lot of medical study of this particular issue. And they disagree with you.
Yeah. And moral integrity.
Oh my God.
Shut
up.
It just gets thrown around, and this sense that morality has something to do with the
thing that
how people use their sexuality, or how they use or how they acknowledge their gender identity. How I don't get how the moral decision here is to go around and be an offensive asshole.
I do. I get it. There's just centuries and millennia of dickishness around this issue. I get it. You've got a history behind you. This is all the new shit. I get it. Adapting to new is scary and hard.
All right.
So the fuck what? Just do the scary hard thing, you dick.
Yeah.
Anyway. Finally, I'm taking us to Ames, Iowa.
Oh.
Where there is a question of federal overreach versus states' rights or local rights.
Oh, yeah. Hot button issue.
Hot button issue.
Yeah.
Working in the other direction this time.
Okay.
Ames, as a lovely little gesture toward inclusiveness, made some of their crosswalks. A crosswalk in the United States usually has two white lines parallel to each other going all the way across the street.
That's one option.
And then often has perpendicular lines that run perpendicular between those two lines, just sort of as
along with the flow of traffic. Yeah.
Yeah. A bunch of them, several of them.
Big thick lines.
Yes. So in this case, Ames did on a couple of intersections, I think, rainbow colored lines going across.
Okay.
Just to say, hey, we welcome you. They used the colors from the obviously from the LGBT flag, but also from the trans colors.
Fantastic, yeah.
And the brown and the black were included as part of the inclusion of people of color.
Yeah.
Great. Not great.
No.
According to the U.S. government.
Oh no.
And the Federal Highway Administration. which is under the control of the Department of Transportation, Secretary Elaine Chao in charge, who happens to be, by the way, the wife of Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell.
Oh, boy. Watch out. Everyone.
They sent a letter to Ames asking them to replace their colorful crosswalks with the white markings.
Did the federal government own the roads?
No.
Did they provide federal funding for the roads?
No.
These were city roads.
City roads.
Fuck off, federal government.
So the argument was that the white markings make it more visible.
Yeah, first of all, these are standards. They're not laws or rules or requirements. They're sort of universally provided standards, right? How we stripe our streets.
Sure.
I don't believe that there's like a federal law that says that this is how it has to be done.
Not only that, but there has been some study of crosswalks with multicolored crossbars.
Yeah.
That show that it's actually fine. It doesn't actually do anything.
And then you better also, because a lot of cities and communities and whatnots, there's an intersection just right over here at the Gateway that's a city street.
Here in Salt Lake City.
It's a crosswalk connecting two sides of a big mall.
Yes.
An open air mall, but it is crossing a public street. They change the striping on that all the time just for yucks.
Yeah.
They do fun, crazy colors.
They probably do green on Paddy's Day.
They're constantly repainting it just to be fun and interesting and
whatnot. You hit on a bunch of salient points, which are that, yes, exactly. These roads are not owned by the Fed. They are not paid for by the Fed.
Yeah.
And
they're not also enforcing this against other places that are just going nuts and having a good time with festive colors of the season. Right.
So City Attorney Mark O. Lambert sent a memo to the Ames Mayor and City Council just saying, yeah, fuck them. Let's just keep it as it is.
Absolutely.
They have no jurisdiction on this.
None whatsoever.
Fuck them.
Yeah.
So,
Ew.
So at least for the time being, the rainbow sticks around.
No, they literally have to pass new laws that nobody wants.
Yeah.
It would be stupid to have a federal law that said how we stripe our sidewalks.
Yep.
That would be ridiculous.
Well, that doesn't seem to be happening. And,
Good.
And
oh my God, I just
rainbow
got really
wins.
fucking pissed off.
You did. But the rainbow won. Be happy.
Yay!
Okay. Well, kids, if you would like to chime in on this or any of the stories you've heard this week, please feel free to do so. You can write into us, podcast.
Why do you do that?
What? Why?
Podcast.
I don't know, because it's fun. Write to podcast.podcast@podcast.podcast.
It's not true. Podcast@thankgodimeatheist.com.
Sure, do that. Fine. Do whatever one you want.
Do the boring one.
Just because it'll get to us. Or you can
leave us a voice
call
note.
us. Sure.
The telephone number is 424-666-8442.
Yeah, hey, go to the Facebook page, facebook.com/TGIAtheist, and click on the like button.
And while you're there, search for the TGIA Members Only Lounge and request to join. It is a closed group, but we will let you in.
Hey, stick around. We're going to hear from some crazies talking about how we all worship somebody other than God. So that'll be cool.
So, Dan.
Yeah.
Robert Jeffress. Remind us who he is.
Pastor. I believe he is out of Dallas.
Oh,
mega church pastor and real fan of our current president.
Right.
And
also a firm grip on reality.
Just kind of gets it when it comes to how
cut through all the bullshit
works.
Yeah.
And
okay.
And now frequent guest on all kinds of conservative shows.
Ugh.
We're about to hear him talk to the now ousted Todd Starnes, and I think that what we're about to hear
part of it, right?
is part of how he got ousted.
Fantastic.
But it's a very this is on Fox Nation very in the news radio section of Fox.
Okay, let's take a listen.
Yeah,
it's very clear to me that the average American citizen loves this president, and they're not buying into all of this impeachment nonsense.
They're not. And look, I heard it over and over again. Like you, I spoke to thousands of these people last week. And the reason they support this president is not because they're religious hypocrites. It's not because they think he is perfect. They know he's not perfect, just like none of us is perfect. But they appreciate the strong Christian stance he takes. He is without doubt the most pro-life, pro-religious liberty, pro-Israel, pro-conservative judiciary president we have ever had. And they don't want to see this warrior, in a sense, removed from his place of leadership in our country. There is a fear that if the left ever regains control of this country again, our nation is finished.
And look, I believe that. I genuinely, based on some of the legislation they've been trying to shove down the throats of the good people of California, and then with this Equality Act that Nancy Pelosi and her cronies are after, I have no doubt that they want to especially go after and target Christians in America, Dr. Jeffers.
Oh, I believe that. I believe if the left ever gets in control again, it's not going to be incremental change we see. They have said they're going to undo everything this president has done. And think about what he has done in the pro-life area, the sweeping religious liberty executive order he signed. They are going to undo that, and they are going to come after conservatives with a vengeance.
I wonder if that's why we are seeing these unrelenting attacks on President Trump, more so than any other Republican in at least modern history.
Yeah, yes, I think it is. And look, I said this on Fox and Friends yesterday, and the president retweeted my comments last night. Look, the Democrats knew they couldn't beat him at the ballot box in 2016. They are becoming increasingly aware of the fact that they can't beat him in 2020 either. Impeachment is the only option they have to remove Donald J. Trump from office. And look, I heard this sanctimonious Nancy Pelosi this weekend calling for prayer for our country and praying for prayer. Look, that reminds me of an arsonist, a pyromaniac with a match in his hand about to set a building on fire saying, now pray with me that the destruction I'm about to cause isn't too severe. I mean, if he's sincere, he'll put down the dang match. And if Nancy Pelosi is sincere about bringing this nation together, she will drop this impeachment effort. Let the American people decide 1 year from now at the ballot box. But she is uncomfortable. She's scared to death at what the American people will choose to do, and that is to keep Donald J. Trump in office.
You know, we just assume they're praying to God. I'm not quite sure. I don't know, Dr. Jeffers. I mean, they booed God, tried to vote him out of the party platform. I mean,
well, and apparently the God they worship is the God of the pagan God of the Old Testament, Moloch, who allowed for child sacrifice. I mean, the God of the Bible doesn't sanction the killing of millions and millions of children in the womb. I think the God they are worshiping is the God of their own imagination.
Moloch.
Yeah.
I prefer the pronunciation Moloch.
Moloch. Moloch.
Yeah, that's right. It's a Klingon god, isn't it? Moloch.
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 And there are like 3 different guttural sounds in Klingon, right? There's like a and
I'm afraid you've outpaced my nerdiness by a long shot. Look, I'm plenty nerdy, but I don't get into 3 different guttural sounds of Klingon.
I'm sorry if I've watched
levels.
whole documentaries about the Klingon language.
You probably should be sorry about that.
No, actually, like there was this really fun YouTube video that I watched not too long ago about created languages.
Uh-huh.
And of course, you can't talk about created language without, talking about Klingon, because the fans of Star Trek have really turned it into something. And to be totally honest, I surprised myself with the fact that I could do more than one guttural sound. So I had not tried that before.
I want to know. Somebody has done a doctoral dissertation by now comparing Klingon to Dothraki, and I don't know who's done it.
Yeah, they talked about both of them. They're both actually quite sophisticated in how they created them.
Yeah, I know.
But anyway,
boy,
howdy, this guy.
Yeah, I mean they're doing a real good job of keeping their base terrified of their political opponents, which is amazing because it's just like, dude, it's just a bunch of people who all want the best for their country and have differing ideas about how that works.
Except for Donald Trump, who does not have the best interests of this country.
No, he doesn't give a shit about this country.
That is why he needs to be removed. And then let's go back to disagreeing about solutions.
About how, which works best with economies, what works, what we can disagree about that.
He just has to be removed from office.
But oh my God.
But the problem is they're so worked up into a lather, right? That when we get somebody like oh my God, they're gonna hate Elizabeth Warren if it's her. If it was Pete Buttigieg, boy, they're gonna lose their minds. I don't really see others bubbling up at this point. I guess it could be Biden.
It could be
if he doesn't. There's some very interesting things happening, of course, with his candidacy and everything. But they're gonna just hate whoever, and they're gonna take the same position that the person is a danger to the country and reckless. But the one thing that I can just say, and it will just be true, is that nobody we put in there would disrespect the office or the nation
the way he does,
the way that Donald Trump has. If it was just another George W. Bush. Right, it's like, oh, this fucking sucks.
Yeah, he's a ding dong.
The country will survive.
Right,
our democracy will somewhat still be intact when this is done.
Yeah,
right.
I will say this: that clip that we just played started out with them saying that the American people still side with Donald Trump.
They don't.
Let me assure you, listener, that is just not the case, nor has it really ever been the case his entire presidency.
No.
The bulk of the country disapprove of his.
The bulk of the country didn't vote for him.
And
we have
this they still don't
electoral
approve.
System.
Oh my God. It's
anyway.
Just anyway, yeah. Hey,
but I do here's another thing that I want to just absolutely I have to bring it up.
Okay.
I cannot handle when he's sort of questioning the sincerity of Nancy Pelosi's call for prayer or whatnot.
I know.
I don't know what her actual beliefs are. I have no clue. But she's up there. She's saying it.
Right?
Let's pray for the country. Fuck you.
Yeah. Fuck her for saying that.
Well, fuck her for saying it. But if somebody does say it, how dare you question their sincerity or their motives or anything?
If we questioned them calling for prayer for the country, which I do,
well, yeah,
who could be more cynical than these bastards?
Yeah, no kidding.
But boy, they would just scream at the top of their lungs, "How dare you!"
Right.
But they love to do it. A call for prayer for the country,
right? And
they're mad about it.
Yeah, outrageous. Absolutely outrageous.
Yeah, it is outrageous, actually. I'm glad that you remembered to pick up on that. I was going to talk about it and then forgot. Dear Frank and Dan, this is from Claire, a listener named Claire. You had a story about the Diocese of Rochester filing for bankruptcy. Yes, we did. Do you remember that?
I do.
And we speculated, she continues, you speculated about whether the giving habits of Catholics have changed. Oh. Well, last year, Catholics weren't donating to Catholic charities, which admittedly does a lot of good work in the community, and aid directed not only to Catholics, but to anyone who applies for help. Mm-hmm. The Bishop of the Diocese of Buffalo, the besieged Bishop Malone, issued a petulant press statement that basically said, and I'm paraphrasing, "Look, I get it. You're all pissed off or something because Buffalo priests have been raping kids for decades. But you're all being really selfish to take it out on the poor of the Diocese of Buffalo. Think of the children. God knows you have to because we don't give a damn about them." Anyway, Malone was absolutely gobsmacked that this peevish little tantrum didn't achieve the desired result because the Catholics of Western New York inundated his office with messages along the lines of, Look, bitch, it's not that we don't care about the poor. It's that you had decades to fix this problem and you didn't.
Yeah.
And now you want us to cough up our hard-earned cash to fix your mistakes? F off, you clueless moron. Why don't you resign?
Yeah.
Eventually, apparently, a wealthy Catholic restaurateur coughed up a couple million
Jesus.
to make up for the shortfall. But Claire continues, but I laughed and laughed at the whole kerfuffle. The writing is on the wall, Bishop baby. Catholics are voting with their wallet. Maybe you'll finally do something about the problem now that it's biting you in the wallet. Your conscience and sense of morality didn't change your behavior, but man, take away the cash and suddenly we've got your attention.
Oh, yeah.
Bastards, says Claire in
Wow.
Buffalo. Thanks, Claire.
Good on Claire.
Yeah. And good on the Catholics for, like, actually seeing, oh, we should stop giving them money.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, they are using this money when all of the money that's coming in is going to, like, defense funds.
Yeah.
And
Paying out settlements.
out settlements and stuff. Yeah, maybe it's time to let that one die on the vine. Well, we had some beautiful people to thank.
Oh my God, Dan! The support is amazing that we are getting on Patreon as we continue our effort to go completely listener free.
No, we don't want to be listener free.
Listener supported.
Listeners are like our favorite part of this whole show, and their support is what we want to sustain the show rather than
ads. And so right now we're at sort of 50% toward our goal, which means 50% of our shows are ad-free.
Right.
And as we continue to hit goals along the way, we will go even further.
And frankly, I'm kind of hoping that our ad placement service starts placing even annoyinger ads, just so that you guys
in the meantime
start actually ponying up and getting on board.
Well, anyway, we do have people to thank in the meantime.
We do, definitely.
We have one new faithful listener.
Okay, who's that?
Clarence.
Hi, Clarence.
We have, let's see, looks like 2 new venerable listeners, Shelley and Devin.
Oh, hooray.
Thank
and
you.
I do need to say, Devin also wrote into us and has given us a one-time donation also.
Oh.
Because she got apparently through the back catalog and felt like she owed us a little bit of extra something.
That's really sweet.
For on the backside.
That's really sweet.
Very cute.
Let's see. We have 2 new beatified listeners. We have Ken and Jesus ate all my ferrets.
Oh no, your
That's
ferrets!
too bad.
I'm sorry about your ferrets, but thank you for the donation.
And then we have 2 new popes, Imposing Being and Matt. So Saint Imposing Being and Saint Matt. Oh no,
No,
not
Pope.
Saints. Pope. Holy shit! How did I get confused there? I said Pope. And I went to... Anyway, Matt actually sent us a message on Patreon and said that in the grand tradition of buying positions,
Yeah.
he has bought himself Pope.
Yeah.
So,
We've how you are now. You are so popified you can't even believe it.
all hail.
Yeah.
The 2 new popes.
When you die, we're gonna hit you on the head with a hammer.
Is that a thing?
Yeah, they hit the Pope on the head with a hammer to make sure he's dead.
Ew.
Yeah.
That's awful.
Yeah, and that's what's coming for you guys, you popes.
All right, and then of course we have one top donor, one person to give our special thanks to every week. Our Lord and Savior, Hannah.
Forever may she wave.
Yeah, and one thing that all these people get just by going to thankgodimatheist.com and clicking on the support tab and going over to Patreon is they all gain access to an ad-free version of the show.
Yeah.
Which is, of course, what we're working toward for everyone.
For everybody.
But in the meantime, you already got it. So thanks so much, guys. We can't do it without your support, and we love you. Dan,
Hey.
I got something for you.
Okay.
There and the reason that this whole thing came up
I'm
is
excited.
I know somebody who works out at this event.
Oh, okay.
And she was telling me all about it, and I think that it's just absolutely an amazing thing, and it's called Rise,
and it's basically just litter.
It is so much litter, but it's a lantern festival thing, right?
Like those Chinese. Are they Chinese?
Asian, some kind. I think actually Thailand is where I've heard it happening.
Oh, okay.
Where they light all the lanterns and they release and the hot air from this little flame in the lantern.
It's made of paper.
Yeah, super lightweight, and so when it heats, it does what a hot air balloon would do, and it rises up and it floats around up in the sky for a while. Until it sets something else on fire.
Can I just tell you the first time I encountered this phenomenon in person? I was down in the southern part of the Salt Lake Valley, just visiting a friend, and I looked up in the sky and saw like probably 12 or 15 lights hovering in the air.
Right.
Clearly not airplanes.
Right.
I was like, oh, fuck. If there's UFOs, I'm going to be so mad. What are they doing? And they weren't moving really. They were just hovering. It was this really creepy thing. And then I realized, oh, shit, it's those lanterns.
Yeah. And, it's actually really cool.
It's a cool looking thing.
It's not only like once they're all up in the air. And I mean, this event in Nevada, right? It's right outside of Las Vegas.
Yeah.
I don't even know how many people are there. 1,000 people probably.
Thousands.
Like it's so many people, and so it's just highly dramatic when they all release their lanterns.
It's gorgeous.
It's truly, when I say that it's highly Instagrammable, it really is.
Yeah.
And that's why a lot of these people are there, is to get a cool pic for their Instagram feed.
But also it's got. I mean, I can see why. Seeing all of this happen, basically adding stars to the sky in this gorgeous way, would feel, for want of a better word, spiritual?
Yeah, and there's already that thing that exists, and that you're aware of, and I hope a lot of our listeners are aware of, is the spiritualness of desert spaces.
Sure.
And so you combine the two, and this has to be just absolutely magical.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
And so, I'm not, when I started sort of questioning this whole thing of, people are, okay, first let me back up. This is what made me sort of go, or sort of pause, right?
Sure.
Is that when I found out that a lot of people write, there's some recently deceased loved one's name on the lantern, or they write some intention onto the lantern.
Sure,
something that they're Oprah's The Secret thing, some kind of they're wanting to try to get this thing. They're trying to purge. They're trying to harness the energy of the universe, whatever it is. They're trying to connect with a dead loved one. And I was like, whoa, because I know about this from this friend, I know that it's a highly commercial endeavor.
Right.
Right. This is an organized, well-executed event.
Yeah.
Right. Where the organizers are making a lot of money off the event.
Right.
And so, and when I first heard about it, I thought of it in terms of, it's really cool. It's really pretty. You get to take cool pictures, whatever, right? And then I started kind of wrestling with this idea of people layering on all of these spiritual things. And if you watch their video, people are crying. They are moved to tears by this experience, right? And they have people who go back year after year after year because they have connected. They found an intense spiritual, again, for lack of a better word, or emotional catharsis in this event, and they want it again and again and again. And we've both been to Burning Man, and we know how powerful that experience can be, and how you can have these emotionally cathartic experiences there as well. And it really just I stepped back and I was like, wow, how do I feel about like for me, I don't love the idea of paying a lot of money, right, to go have an emotional cathartic experience where the people who are organizing the whole thing are just doing it for commercial purposes.
Interesting.
Right? Like it kind of sullies it a little bit for me, but it's clearly not sullying it for these other people, or maybe they don't realize just how much this is, was started just as a way to make money.
It's funny because I think I take a different tack than you. I think organizers of events deserve money. They're putting, putting in all this effort.
No. Yeah, I'm not saying they shouldn't make money off of it.
Now, I will say, apparently,
just like Burning Man,
an adult.
Ton of money.
I'm looking at the website now. An adult Friday or Saturday ticket is $120.
Yeah,
that's not chump change.
No.
But they sell a limited number of tickets. It's not. They don't just accept anybody.
Well, right.
And it's interesting, like you buy your ticket at a specific quadrant in their circle. That's really interesting. Anyway, I think that my take on this is that as our society secularizes, as our society becomes less connected to organized religion,
right,
there's a void there.
Yeah,
that's left.
Totally is.
We don't have ways of sort of communally experiencing awe and wonder together in large groups, or experiencing catharsis, emotional, because I think that is helpful, and I think that it's useful for a lot of people. Maybe not for everybody, but for a lot of people. And as these events clearly show,
people are seeking it out.
Yeah. And
willing to fork out money. And so like where like I was like initially sort of, again though, this is I'm processing and I was initially just like, oh God, I don't like the idea of that. And then I was like, well, how different is this? Which of course I also object to this, but like is this from organized religion that figured this out forever ago, that if you provide people with a sense of community, a sense of purpose, and you give them some good feels, they will give you money. Yeah. And they'll give you a lot of money. Right?
I feel like I don't have a problem with that.
People are willing to pay for these experiences. I guess as long as it's all transparent and you know that that's what it is and that's what you're doing and blah, 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 blah. Like, and again, I wouldn't go there and write, someone's name on a lantern. That's not what I would do. Right. I would go and I would be, if I sort of imagine myself there and I'm releasing it, I would be perhaps moved by the beauty of it because it is truly beautiful.
Yeah. I think it's gorgeous.
I don't want this to sound like I don't think that they've created something beautiful. They really, truly have. It's beautiful.
Right. Here's what I think. I think, I like this a lot better than church because this is like...
yeah, of course.
This is like...
It's on your terms.
They're paying taxes.
Yes.
They're, you know what I mean? They're like, all
true.
The people that are using the roads to get to their event, this event is actually contributing back to those roads and everything, whereas church doesn't do that.
Yeah, fair enough.
I think this event doesn't put any rules on it. Doesn't tell you how to do your spirituality or whatever with it. That's on you. It just provides a place for everybody to come and have a communal experience. So each
person though having their own and that, I mean, that's, of course, everybody's always having their own experience in these kind of settings, but like, it seems like, I don't know. I don't even know what my point is.
I just want to know how far out their perimeter goes, because it feels like you could just drive up there and watch from a small distance away, and it'd be just as cool. Like you're not in the thick of everything.
Yeah,
you don't get the communal thing, but boy, you could see something pretty.
I know they're leasing federal land. I know that.
Yeah, it's somewhere out in the Mojave Desert.
Yeah,
and I should say
I made a joke up, and
I was going to say I made a joke about it being littered. They claim to clean it all to find all of them and pick them up.
Yeah.
I don't know if they do that, but
no, according to
And they say,
mine, they do.
And I like that in the same like paragraph. They're like, don't worry, they're all biodegradable, and we clean them up anyway. So it's like,
well, I mean,
there you go.
In case one gets lost.
Yeah.
But it's like 2-year biodegradable, so it would be litter.
Yeah.
In the meantime, right? Like, so.
Yeah. But I don't know. I think that we need to start really thinking as a group of non-believers about more of this type of thing. Just really cool events, really cool places to go that don't put any strictures on you, that don't have any dogma associated with them.
I think a lot of people find these things, right? Like, I think about the people that I know who are, like, their religion essentially is going to concerts.
Sure.
Right? Like, people find this. People do find there are plenty of these experiences around, be they concerts or whatever. Or some, cuckoo crackpot thing out in the desert.
Right.
Like there is plenty of it out there. I don't disagree that we shouldn't have more. I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
I do agree with you that we need to, be open to these kind of things if they give you something that or provide something for you that you like. Again, though, like, I don't know though, like, I wouldn't, and this is just me personally, I wouldn't go there looking for a spiritual experience.
Right.
Right.
Well,
and I
it's
don't
hard
even
to
know,
even define what that even means.
Right.
Spiritual. I have such trouble with that word. I don't. Every
we
person
kind of know what it, like. We all have some idea of what it is.
Well, it's like,
and don't you think
it's like
you've
porn?
had...
I don't know. I can't define it, but I know it when I see it, sort of thing.
Yeah, sure.
I don't know.
But,
I'm uncomfortable with that word.
So you keep it strictly in terms of, I just had a cathartic experience.
I don't know what I say. I don't know. Yeah, because I don't believe in a spirit, so why would something be spiritual to me?
Right. But if somebody asked you, have you ever had a quote-unquote sort of deep, profound, like, they're like, I have these spiritual, I go out there into the mountains and I have spiritual experiences. And don't you know what they mean?
Sure.
And
I
you're
experience
like, hey, yeah,
a sense of
that same
awe
thing.
and wonder,
right?
and whatever.
I just call it something else.
Sure. And a lot of people talk about transcendence or connection to different things. I think it's a word that people use and assume everybody else is using it in the same way, and they're not. Anyway, I think it's a confusing word, but I get it. I kind of get where they're coming from. Anyway, I think there's a need for stuff like this, and maybe you and I should create an event so that we can be the ones making all the money.
Oh, believe me, as soon as I heard about the inner workings of this thing, I was looking up because they just ripped this off of some event in Thailand.
Right.
I was like, okay, what other crazy
I think
could we rip
there
off?
is one here in Utah.
I'm sure there is. There's a bunch of them. This one, apparently, that was one of the most profitable and biggest.
Right.
Because it's Vegas. People will go to Vegas
Oh, yeah.
for anything.
Yeah.
Right.
Totally.
But anyway. All right, guys. I think that's enough. Right?
Get out there and get spiritual. If you
Find your thing. Find some lanterns, everyone.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful.
And if you have other examples of this kind of thing, please feel free to write into us. podcast@thankgodimatheist.com.
Or you can call and leave us a voicemail message with the telephone numbers 424-666-8442.
Yep. Go to the Facebook page, facebook.com/TGIAtheist, and click on the like button.
And while on Facebook, search for the TGIA Members Only Lounge and request to join. We will let you in. You can also find us on Twitter at
No, you're the one.
At TGI Atheist.
And speaking of social media, thanks so much to Mackenzie for all of her hard work on our Facebook page, and thanks to Amy and Danny for their work on the Members Only Lounge.
And a big thanks goes out to the Red Rock Hot Club and to Gordon Johnston for the use of their music.
And thank all of you for tuning in.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.